The 5 Learning Theories. Today I will talk about the 5 learning theories, how they work, and how they differ between each other. No two students are alike, and the way every person learns will vary. Our brains are all unique, and our experiences all contribute to the different ways we learn. So let's see what these 5 theories are. To better explain them, I'll use some simple and practical examples that, in my opinion, are always the best way to clearly explain complex concepts. Theory number 1. Behaviorism. Behaviorist learning theory, or behaviorism, utilizes key ideas from the work of Boris Frederick Skinner, an American psychologist, who theorized that learning occurs through a series of rewards or punishments. While Skinner believed that all learning could occur this way, the behaviorist theory is most commonly utilized in classrooms today as a tool for behavior management. According to Skinner, rewards increase the likelihood that behaviors will be repeated, while punishments decrease the likelihood of repetition. He also theorized that rewards and punishments could be either positive or negative in nature. What does this mean? When we give or add something to the environment, the interaction is positive. When we take something away, the interaction is negative. So, for example, removing an undesirable activity from the agenda might be a negative reward, and adding an undesirable activity to it might be a positive punishment. Let's see some examples to better understand these concepts. First example. In Miss Green's first grade classroom, she's working with one of her students, Jenny, to help her with some challenging attention span issues. She's giving her a candy whenever she sees her focused on a task. This is an example of positive reward. Second example, in Mr. Red's third grade classroom, he quietly reminds a student to keep all 4 legs of his chair on the floor. This is an example of positive punishment. Yes, verbal praise and reminders qualify as adding something to the environment. Third example. To increase the number of students who turn in their homework each day, Miss Red announces that if the class has 100% completion on today's assignment, they won't have homework on Friday. This is an example of negative reward. Fourth example. Students in Mrs. Johnson's art class are having trouble sharing the supplies. Mrs. Johnson writes the word art on the board, and each time students have a disagreement over supplies, she erases a letter. If the word is erased completely, students will have to use pencil to complete their project for the day. This is an example of negative punishment. Theory number 2. Cognitivism. Cognitive learning theory is largely based on the work of Jean Piaget, who rejected the idea that learners are passive and simply react to stimuli in the environment. Instead of focusing solely on observable behavior, cognitive theory seeks to explain how the mind works during the learning process. Like a computer, the mind takes in information, processes that information, then uses that information to produce learning outcomes. Piaget's 4 stages of development indicate the learner's ability to understand abstract, complex concepts. A few simple examples. First example, Miss Smith, a kindergarten teacher, works with students to verbally communicate their feelings. She knows that at this age they're naturally egocentric and struggle to see things from others' perspectives. Second example. To help students memorize the periodic table, Miss Williams co-creates various mnemonic devices with her class. Third example. Miss Jones uses a graphic organizer in order to help students write paragraphs with appropriate structure. Fourth example. At the start of every lesson, Mr. Davis asks questions to activate the prior knowledge of his students. He knows this will help to link the new learning concepts to previously retained ideas, increasing the likelihood that the new learning will be remembered. Theory number 3. Constructivism. Constructivists see the learner as a constructor of knowledge. New learning is shaped by schemas, which the learner brings to the learning process. Lev Vygotsky is an important founder of constructivist learning theory. Vygotsky believed that learning is a collaborative process and that social interaction is fundamental for cognitive development. According to Vygotsky, students learn best when working collaboratively with those whose proficiency level is higher than their own. allowing them to complete tasks they're not yet able to do independently. Vygotsky identified these concepts as the more knowledgeable other and the zone of proximal development. Constructivist classrooms are student-centered, with the teacher acting as the facilitator. As usual, let's see some examples. First example, Ms. Rodriguez intentionally pairs students performing on or above grade level with students performing below grade level, inviting them to turn and talk about their learning throughout a lesson. Second example, Ms. Wilson uses collaborative learning to facilitate engagement with specific learning targets, ensuring heterogeneous student groupings. Third example, Mr. Brown uses problem-based learning to engage his students in solving real-world problems, meeting several learning targets while giving students autonomy to make decisions. He encourages students to work with peers who have different strengths than their own. Theory number 4, humanism. Humanist learning theory approaches learning as a way to fulfill an individual's potential rather than meeting specific learning targets. Maslow's research on the hierarchy of needs is a major concept within this theory, as it focuses on the whole person, specifically the cognitive and affective needs of the learner. The theory holds that self-actualization is the ultimate goal of each individual. Learners are trusted to determine their own goals, set standards, and evaluate their own work. Thus, students are at the center of the humanist classroom. Teachers are facilitators and coaches, recognizing the unique needs of each student and supporting their academic and social development. Let's see some examples. First scenario, Miss Anderson begins each day with a morning meeting to check in on her students' emotional well-being and proactively teach them specific coping skills and strategies. Second scenario, Mr. Thomas, an 8th grade science teacher, provides his students a menu of assessment options to illustrate their mastery of learning targets for the unit. Third scenario, Miss Roberts, a 2nd grade teacher, invites each student to set their reading goal for the quarter. Fourth scenario, Miss Fox, the school's counselor, partners with local organizations to fill backpacks with food that students can take home to ensure they have food to eat over the weekend. Theory number 5, connectivism. Connectivism is one of the newest educational learning theories. It focuses on the idea that people learn and grow when they form connections. This can be connections with each other, or connections with their roles and obligations in their life. Hobbies, goals, and people can all be connections that influence learning. Teachers can utilize connectivism in their classroom to help students make connections to things that excite them, helping them learn. Teachers can use digital media to make good, positive connections to learning. They can help create connections and relationships with their students and with their peer groups that help students feel motivated about learning. As you can see, today's classrooms do not solely utilize one learning theory over another, but instead incorporate multiple theories throughout the learning experience. Each theory has strengths and limitations, especially considering the realities of education in the 21st century. Educators must walk the narrow line between creating a student-centered classroom and meeting rigorous learning standards. Each of these theories has its strengths and its weaknesses. Which one of these 5 theories is your favorite? If you wish, leave a comment. If there's enough interest for one of these 5 theories, I might make a more in-depth video about it in the future. If you liked this video, don't miss the video How to Study Faster and More Effectively with the Feynman Technique, which you can find on this channel. I invite you to subscribe to the channel and activate the notification bell if you haven't done so already, and I wish you a wonderful rest of the day.